All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Planning and Boza Zone meeting for a workshop, planning workshop, and the subject is a planning vision plan. And so, again, this is a workshop, so we can't vote. And also, we have some absentees here tonight, and I'll let Tom introduce everybody who's here.
Scott Price,
Here.
Fergie Stewart,
Here?
David Budakali,
Here.
Susan Hallman.
Here.
I'm here, Tom Buford, and our staff person, Nissi Kessman is here. Thank you.
All right. And we got Michael Welch out with the flu, and Ann's out. So that's who's here today. All right. So we'll start opening a discussion on, we left last time we were going to have a meeting to help us streamline what we were looking for in terms of a individual or a project definition for what we need done for the vision, right? Okay. So we'll open the discussion. David, you weren't here at our last meeting.
No, but I watched it.
Okay.
I'm familiar with this.
Okay, so you're caught up.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I won't spend time doing that.
That's all right.
Good. Thank you for getting caught up.
So
now-
was the primary purpose, because it was a little bit disjointed last meeting, is it to provide Cassie and the council some clarity on the budget we needed? Or was it more general discussion on where we're going to go with the vision plan?
Okay. Well, it's kind of it's a vision plan, but you're right. The city council needs a scope of work definition for somebody if we did do that, and so that's really what the council needs. I had a meeting with the mayor, and I was going to let everyone know that the mayor did ask me to come in, and Cassie was with me, and we discussed the parameters of what we were discussing here for this. And he was concerned. One of the concerns that came up first was his understanding, which is that he's the only person that can enter into a contract for the city. And I read him Section J, or he read me Section J, which I was looking and see if I got an answer from the city attorney, and I haven't. So City J, in my opinion, empowers us to be able to hire a contractor for specific use, but it doesn't. It also says if the money's available. So there's a caveat there. The caveat is the money there? So, but that was what we discussed, and we discussed his concerns about what this entails, where we're going with it, and so that's really what we need to kind of make sure that this is on the path. Now, one thing I want to ask also, the vision plan or any vision document is a living document, in my opinion, of course, and it's always can be modified, add to as we go down, but it's 5 to 10 years down the road is what we're looking for. As far as items that are vision, where we want the city to be in 5 to 10 years, what would facilitate that? And so the vision plan would document things that would help facilitate the city moving in a certain direction to help with the prosperity, to help with the successful, to help serve the public. What items that aren't here that could be here in the future, and how do we get there? So those are the kind of things a vision plan provides. So anybody, yes, go ahead, Susan.
So my understanding of our last meeting was that we were going to come to this workshop and we were going to discuss the vision plan. And so everybody was asked to come review it and give their thoughts. And then from there, we'd have that discussion on each of those items. And then the first meeting of January, which will be next week, we would have the opportunity then to vote on any particulars that we wanted. Now, as far as the email that you sent out, or not you sent out, that Cassie sent out, which says that you did meet And then the commission should first define the purpose of hiring a consultant, specifically the desired end goal and the type of report or plan we hope to receive. Once we have reached this agreement, this information can be provided to the mayor, so an RFP may be issued. While I understand I'm going to disagree a little bit on that process. Just having gone through the RFP process in my other work-related things in the past, I think we're still missing a step here, which is to be able to present to City Council prior to an RFP being issued or an RFP being requested, because I think, we could say all day that we want, a new park.
No. Right.
If we take that to City Council, who are the individuals who will vote on it and who will fund it, they may say, why did you pick a park? Like, why a park?
Right.
So I think I don't have an issue with this other than the direction it goes into, or the direction it's going as far as the steps that are, that we take.
Mm-hmm.
If I were working in a regular job, one that I've worked in before, the process would be that you would identify what you'd like to do, and then you present to the individuals who are responsible for funding and get their buy-in,
Right.
and then you go for an RFP process. I would hate to do an RFP and throw it in front of City Council. I've sat at that table before. I hate it when you get something you know nothing about it. So I would rather have City Council, planning, the mayor, Cassie, everybody in agreement that this is the path that we should take. So that's my personal opinion on that. You guys may have a different one, but that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think there's an issue if we come to an agreement of what we want to pursue, of going to City Council and saying, hey, this is the path we think we want to go on. We're going to look to pursue RFPs for that if City Council is in agreement. I don't think there's an issue there. There will be an issue if we say this is the path we want to go on, this is how much money we want, oh, and we haven't done any requests for proposals yet. So we can't back up that number. That's where the issue is going to be.
Well, the RFP, whatever it's for, is going to include a scope of services requested. I don't even think we know that.
Right.
So,
Right.
I naively did vote in a commission meeting to request the $50,000, right? And at the time I said, wow, this is a little broad, and I said, well, maybe some folks know some things I don't know. And there certainly had been some pressure from City Council requesting a budget and so forth. But I thought at the time this is a very weak request, and I'm not sure that they would just give us them open blank. Sure, let's spend $50,000 and tell us where to write the checks. It didn't make sense at the time, but I think it's perfectly appropriate. The mayor and City Council's response and. Of course, Cassie at this point saying, hey, look, we need some detail. For me, I'm not even sure that we're in the position to even detail what the scope of services is to request the RFP of any kind.
Right.
And our next step should be to identify some key things, some immediate short-term goals, long-term goals of things that we need help with. And I think we can start using the guide as what the ordinance lays out under section 1304.060 under general purpose of this commission. Mm-hmm. And it couldn't be clearer, and it's not that detailed, actually.
Right.
Now, it's simple in presentation, but it is detailed in broad scope when you put those under the category. And so we can just go through that very quickly, and that is we are to prepare and have prepared a plan of the city to receive and make recommendations on public and private proposals for development. Okay, I think we do that. They come in and we analyze those and we make a decision based on the ordinances we have. I think we're executing that. Secondly, prepare and administer planning regulations. Generally, I think we've done that. We've added some things here under this commission. The the fence and the metal building, and we've tightened up a few things. So I think we're trying to do that. I think we have done that to a large extent. Then number C, item C, prepare and transmit to the council recommended ordinances implementing plans. And so that's kind of where we are, is looking at that vision plan. That could be included in that implementing plans. And then lastly, under D, advise and counsel the city government and other public bodies. The commission shall have the duty and function of promoting public interest in understanding of the long-term coordinated municipal planning. And therein lies our revisit, in my opinion, of the vision plan that's already been done and was updated 4 years ago.
Right.
Now and so that then, these things, I don't mean to be redundant here, but we already have our marching orders. We've already been instructed as to what to do.
Right.
And then, under those powers and duties, what strikes me under A and B is it tells us the first thing that the commission should do in achieving these goals is to prepare a work program and make comprehensive studies of the present conditions. The present conditions.
Yeah.
And secondarily, the probable future growth of the city of Eureka Springs.
Yep.
And I have to tell you, I highlight that because, in my opinion, the present conditions are the most important element. Mm-hmm. If we we will get bogged down and caught up into a discussion about the integration of the cultural and growth and jobs and blah, blah, blah of the city of Eureka, which we need to attack, along with other commissions in this city.
That's right.
But the first thing that we are being charged to is assess the present conditions of the city, of how they may be impact that future growth. And then lastly is that the commission shall prepare and maintain a map showing the general location and streets, public ways, and public property, and all the boundaries of the area within the territorial jurisdiction for which it will prepare the plan, ordinance, and regulations, that planning map. So I want to make sure we have a planning map, and it does show our zoning and all that, but at the risk of being a broken record on that element right there, I think one of the first items that we put in this budget request is, do we have a current comprehensive map of all the streets, of the public roadways, of the zoning, in a sophisticated digital overlay that includes properties which are owned by the city of Eureka Springs? And those are categorized as A, public facilities, and B, those properties that are available for sale or used otherwise. And so I want us to be careful that we don't get caught up in some big picture over here, which we could have workshopped this thing for every day the rest of this year and end up at exactly the same point. So in my opinion, we need to start with some of these basics, identify what the key short-term goals are. And what, in my opinion, is that, and my experience, once we do that, the longer-term and mid-term goals start to reveal themselves, right? And then the public starts to chime in. And then city council and everybody has more respect for what we're doing because we're tackling some of these items. And in that context, I would tell you that also on this concept, going down to item J, which you talked about, is actually G tells us that we may prepare annually a program for appropriate period recommending coordinated program of capital expenditures for public improvements. And then it does tell us, which you know, that we have the right to receive and spend from federal, state, county, municipal, and other public-private sources. These funds may hire staff and contract for consultant services. Now, as a practical matter, even though, let's just say somebody granted us the money, somebody granted us $50,000, we all went out there and we pitched somebody, yeah, I'll give you $50,000 to do this. We should still make sure that it all runs through the city council. And even if we have been granted that authority, as a practical matter, I don't think that that's a smart thing to do. But what is a smart thing to do is for us to keep in mind that we have the authority and the power to make presentations for this money. Yep. And set these RFPs ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then tell the city council they need to rubber stamp it because we have the authority to do that. after a lot of diligent, especially if we've been out there trying to raise the money. Final thing on that is that any request for money, any grant program, whatnot, should be thought out in keeping with what the likely interests are of those programs that are granting and funding programs.
Right.
So we might, as an example, we may want to paint every building green and blue and pink, right?
Okay.
But if we know that there's a lot of money available for people that want to increase urban mobility through planning and bike lanes and things like that, then we need to say, yes, we love sidewalks and bike lanes because they have the money.
Right.
This is what they want to promote. And I'm just using that as an example. It could be other things. So I will shut up, but that's at this point, but that's kind of my thought. Let's start with some simple things. Where are the weaknesses? Where are the strengths? What are some things we should be doing right now? And then get this request to City Council as quickly as possible so we can start a little bit of money flowing.
Right. And one of the things, David, that same thing, you know, because Steve Hollifield said, yeah, it's kind of, we were kind of coming at them backwards where, you know, they needed, you know, like I said, a plan, implementation strategies, things like that. But one of the things that I found out before the meeting is I called the chair of the Parks Commission and I asked her, of all the land, because I was a park commissioner and it was quite a number, 41% of all the available land in Eureka Springs is controlled by parks. So we could facilitate and help and bring them in because they already have control of half the land and they should know a lot that we don't know. So I think
exactly. So to distill it down, there are services that are available today because I'm seeing them every day with municipalities, architects, engineering firms, that I should be able to say, all right, first of all, you want to be a modern city? You want to attract growth? You want people to spend money here? You want developer, whatever, people to build housing here? Show them that you're doing something too. Well, there should be a map we should put up on a screen at any moment that doesn't digitally show an overlay of the city, right? All the zoning by street, zoom in on it, then do another overlay of public properties, do another overlay of where the water and sewer is. Done.
Right.
Can't afford it? That should be in our RFP. That's a part of our scope of planning. We're not going to get this long-term growth vision thing going until you have these basics accomplished.
Right.
Because if I have a developer wants to come in right now or an investor wants to come in right now and do that,
You have no clue.
I got nothing.
Yep.
What I have is I'm going to drive them down 62 and I'm going to see a mishmash of buildings, right? Some of with crap all over the front of them.
Right.
Some of them hundreds of pieces of crap, right? In front of them. What is that about? Right? So I don't want to go down. That's a long road to go down. I don't want to go down that. But you get my idea. Let's start with the basics. Ask for some money to modernize what we're doing in our presentation. Then before we start implementing some of these things, there are other stakeholders in this city that need to be brought in because the long-term vision also includes the people on the CAPC.
Right.
Because we're going to need their buy-in. We're all going to have to buy in this together.
That's right.
Right?
Susan?
I just, that was one of the items that I had on my list. And I appreciate you having that input. But I did want to ask Cassie a couple questions because you had sent us an email about the GIS map. Mm-hmm. And when I reviewed that map, obviously I've already called ACT Data Scout. They said there's 86 properties of the 103 that are already mapped individually, just not on a big map. But the GIS map, I was not able to clearly look at that map and see what properties were owned by the city. There are categories, so there's Victorian, historic Victorian, there's commercial, there's, different residential zones and whatnot. There's the green line that shows the boundary of the city itself. What category is designated on that particular GIS map that you sent us? What category is city-owned parcels?
That would be the layer titled city-owned properties.
Okay, there's no category for that.
There is. I sent instructions on how to find it.
I looked today.
It is there.
Okay, I don't see it. It doesn't say, what is the title? Like, there's color-coded ones. What is the title?
When you go to the far left, you go to the very top, you click
Yep.
that icon, it brings up a new setting. One of those is called city-owned properties.
Okay. All right, so there's that. Do you have a map that has street addresses? So when you look at that map, or at least when I looked at that map, I couldn't see any streets on it.
It does not have street addresses assigned, I don't believe. GIS uses a geocoding software that can approximate addresses. You can also, because it's the same parcel data, you can cross-coordinate that with Act Data Scout to find those addresses, and not every parcel has an address.
Okay, so what you're saying is that what it sounds like you're saying, and maybe I'm assuming this, but the GIS map that we currently have could be modified and improved.
Yes. You would need someone on the back end to go in and put in the address. Well, that data would be there. It's how do you get it to show up? would be
Okay,
the
and when you say
question.
someone, would that be someone that's affiliated with GIS, or would that be an independent contractor who could manipulate that information?
In theory, I can manipulate that information. It's because address is also, that information is in Act Data Scout, but they don't show up on the Act Data Scout map.
Do they show it as a address, or do they show it as a parcel number?
When you look at the map, you see the property owner name. That's what
Okay.
Act Data Scout shows. When you click into the actual property, that's
Right.
what shows address. and
It'll show
parcel
city
number.
of, yeah, there's a whole list of city of Eureka, but then there's parcel number. So are you saying you could use either one of those to figure out what the address was for sure?
Yes.
Okay, so I would like to come in and have you show me exactly what you're talking about, just so I'm clear on everything that is available to us, that route. And then I also have another question. Somebody had, I think it was Tom, did you mention that someone had said to you that the parks map has like, the parks map has city-owned property on it as well? That they did a study on parks, or somebody told you that there was a parks
I
map?
hadn't done anything on parks or recreational land. Now, you can go back to data scout and, work off of it, but no, I've not done anything with parks or recreation or whatever.
Okay, Fergie, did you say they had a map, a master plan map, or a map?
The Parks does have several maps that they developed. And I know we talked, when I was there, that was one of the things that they worked on after I left, but there was a specific delineation of every property that Parks had, that they had a map of. And I think that's part of their, I don't know, I have to go back and talk to Sam Dudley, but they had updated that. And it had to do with when they did the bike trail, International Bike Trail, and the Walton Family Foundation was donating the land. The part of that agreement was that they would get that information, and that was part of that agreement. And that I think that's why they did the specific mapping of their property.
Okay, so then the question really is would their map be beneficial to the GIS map as far as information
It
goes?
may be one and the same. I just don't know where, because the GIS is basically, it's a database formatting. To have access to that, it costs some money. You pay a licensing fee. But instead of going that way, I was thinking about I could make a trip to the tax assessor's office and ask.
In Berryville?
Right.
I've already done that.
Yeah, oh, you already done that?
There's
Okay.
86 of the 103 parcels owned by the city individually mapped. You just can't pull them up where you can see all of them.
Okay, so that's,
So they're in, like, if there was a section behind my house, I could blow up that section and it'd say, you know, owned by the city of Eureka Springs. But you can't pull up, they can't pull up a large map that shows like the whole city and shows where each of those individual parcels are on a whole map. And I did call ACT Data Scout as a company and asked them if they were able to do that, and they are not. They've already said no. So,
okay, that's an interesting.
so I guess it is a fantastic start to be able to do this map. I've been asking for it for quite some time now, a couple months now, but, you know, not only does it help us, like what David said, not only does it help us just know what we have, but, you know, if you go back to the vision plan, you know, the reason why I had that on my list is because in the vision plan, they mentioned that they would love to be able to turn some of the city-owned land, lots, parcels, into pocket parks.
Right.
Well, if you don't know who owns it, then how can you do that? Tom's also mentioned in the past about creating some parking lots or extra parking if we've got some land that would be beneficial for that purpose.
Right.
But again, we don't know what they are. So it is, you know, we keep going back to the vision plan. You know, we need to review the vision plan. I myself have probably reviewed the vision plan at least 5 times since I've been and it's the same question that comes back. And this is one of the same issues that's been on there for quite some time. So if I could come in and sit with you and you could explain the GIS or you could get a copy of the parks map to see what they have, to see if that would be beneficial, unless you just think that it's an easy process and we should be able to figure it out through GIS.
It really depends on what you're looking for.
Well, what are we
I can
looking
show
for?
you how to find the city-owned properties on GIS because that's a layer we have mapped. I am not aware of what Parks does and doesn't have. I reached out to them recently to ask if they have their own map of city-owned properties or vacant properties, and Director Dudley was not aware of one. So, and he didn't say they didn't have it. He said he's not aware of it. Some of the other stuff you're asking for is maybe possible, maybe not. It all depends on who is able to manipulate the data on the back end of GIS. And GIS is not, you know, it's not a tool you go into and you toggle a couple of buttons and then you get exactly what you want. It is a vast database. I've been to school to learn how to use it, and I still am only scratching the surface of what it can do. So it's, I can help with some of your questions, but I don't know if I can help with all of them.
Okay, so if we were to look at the map, what do we want to know? I mean, I think we've pretty much said what we want to know, right?
Right, right. Well, first, I guess the first question is, what is location of all the city-owned properties, right?
Well, yeah, all city-owned. So not only those with facilities currently on them, but also open land
Right,
or undeveloped, well, I shouldn't say undeveloped land.
right.
Because the long-term use of the map is, hey, we need a new building for Public Works. Do we have enough land where they currently are, or do we have another plot of land that would
Yeah,
accommodate that?
Yeah.
Do we need a new city hall? Where could we put that? Because we have 5 acres over here, 2 acres over here, 3, whatever it is.
Right,
That's the long-term portion of that discussion.
well, it may be just the term improved and non-improved, you know, because that's the tax rules that they use to.
Well, wouldn't that be sewer and water, though? Wouldn't that be more of a,
Well, it just means there's no building on it. So, I mean, improved, basically, there's no taxable building.
right, but for somebody like David, who might want to look at that because he's got an investor coming in, they'd want to know if there was water or sewer, right,
Right.
David?
Well,
Yeah, which,
you could do it, you could start out with data scat at the 105, I think, properties, whatever it is. And of course, you go in there and it shows 105 listings. Well, data scat will show you the booking page. Then you go another step and it'll show you a picture of the property.
Right.
And you can tell whether it's vacant or it has something on it. And then going down and have the legal description. And then, so, you know, you could if you ever had all that assembled and identified, you could take all that data and give it to someone like McClellan Engineering, who has our zoning map, and say, okay, here's all the properties here in town that are city-owned. Could you do us a map now, what you already know about your extreme, because you've done our zoning map in the past, and you update our zoning map. You've got a bunch of computers there at McClellan Engineering. Could you, do us a map? And then you could take that and go to Public Works and say, okay, now here's the map. All these properties have water and sewer to them. Well, this one has water, this one has sewer, this one has, one or another, whatever. And you could, could back into it where you not only know where the properties are, but do they have water and sewer? And would give you a starting point. And I think you're going to find probably a lot of the properties you can't do anything with, but it'd be nice to know where they are, because it may be somebody wants to do so-and-so sometime, close an alley behind their house and say, well, yeah, but we have a city-owned property right on the street down there that if you close this alley, we can't get to it. And we close alleys all the time. It's just a routine thing. Oh, I've got an alley behind my house. Let me close it.
Right.
I don't think anybody ever did a study to see if that alley ties into something else the city may own. So, yeah.
I don't want anybody to think that, I think there's just millions and hidden unlocked value in all the city-owned property.
Yeah.
No, that's not it at all. If you can't, it's beyond a map, by the way. There should be a file. Should be able to walk into Cassie's office. Cassie, could you give me there's a property that the city owns that, I'll just make up K and 8th. You got a file on that? Oh, sure, it's right here. There should not only be a map, right? We should have built a very basic data set file on all the properties owned by the city. Is it hard work? You bet.
Yeah.
But my fear here is that whether it's city council or the public or all of us, no, we don't want you guys meddling with a lot of too many details, right? What we really want is this big vision plan that we can all come together on and kumbaya and build a big community center event, and this is the new vision plan. I'm not going to be a part of that.
Yeah.
If you can't block and tackle, okay, I'm not going back there to throw the football. You can forget. And the reason is you will never complete a pass. There will be no touchdowns. So this is my point. And final thing, and then I'll shut up, Scott. And that is, that is, the ordinance already tells us about the maps.
Right.
It already tells us. It's already here. The community facilities plan. And the fact that we don't have an overlay map that shows where the water and sewer is, I'm sorry, I'm not bringing anybody here to sell them anything. If you can't quickly show them, like in 10 minutes, if somebody walks in and said, and I know this, somebody walks in and said, look, I'm looking at this property right here. Oh, yeah, it's an 8-inch sewer line right there. The water line's across the street. You'll have to bore over here. No problem. That's it. 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. Not, well, I really don't know. Those maps aren't up to date. And yeah, well, but no, you'll have to call 811 or 211 or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
No, you're supposed to tell me. That's what you're supposed to do. So, there you go.
No,
Yeah,
go ahead, Scott.
I have to concur with David. We do need that map, and if it requires getting RFP, you get a consultant to come in here to coordinate all the agencies, because we need the sewer, we need all the other utilities, the water, and the parks. So my question is, when 13.04.070 powers and duties was written up, and, this has been on the books a long time. So we have to have plans already. I mean, there should be maps. I mean, it specifically talks about maps in here. So my question is, historically, where are the maps? And have they been updated, and whose responsibility is that?
I think the last map, if I'm correct, Cassie would know if she's looked at it recently, but I believe it was done, was it 2016 with Glenna, or was it before?
Yeah.
It was right before Glenna left, remember when she did that? So I'm assuming that's the last time it was updated.
So, when I came on as a commissioner, nobody presented me with these maps. Maybe I was fooled for not asking for them, even though that's part of the responsibilities and duties that's specifically specified in the ordinances here. So I'm just asking, where are they?
The
Also,
2016 zoning
I
map
haven't
is
finished.
available online.
Yeah, you can get it online.
Online,
Just a
okay.
zoning map, yeah.
Okay, so the thing is that a couple of years ago, they were putting in internet cables along 62.
Well, yeah, and I told, matter of fact, when I was with the mayor, I had to show him a story about
So
the,
did that-
even AT&T's outdated database was, they cut through the mainline cable because they thought it wasn't there anymore. They thought it was somewhere else, and they gave the contract to the map they had, and it was wrong. So yeah, so even the AT&T map downtown is wrong. It
So,
even,
you know, when those cables came before, did it come before the commission?
no, that's a good question. I mean,
Because it
the good-
specifically says in here that the commission should be reviewing this and approving it.
I agree, and I don't think a
So, you know, we're being
utility-
bypassed.
Right.
And also, you know, I have a little grievance with city council because they keep on coming at us like, where's your vision plan? Where's your
Right.
vision plan? And they're not being very specific. And then they're coming with, well, do you have a budget proposal? We came with a budget proposal, and then they start moving the goalposts and saying,
I get you.
now we have to have an RFP.
Yeah. But no, I agree with you. Matter of fact, one of the things that I was telling Butch when we met with him is these poles that we have that we believe are used for utilities, but those are abandoned. A lot of those are just abandoned wire on the poles. About 90% of all that stuff on the poles is abandoned. And he didn't know that. And I said, so he was surprised. I said, no, you need to go ask them and they'll tell you.
Well, you know, we have like AT&T,
Right.
little boxes all around town.
And they're abandoned. A lot of them
Yeah.
are abandoned. Matter of fact, that's what I was showing. If you go to Plainer Hill and you look to the where the flags are, and you go to the right, you'll see all these beautiful little boxes.
So shouldn't we be asking these companies to come in and take out that?
Well, I would think so,
Because
but the problem
it's
is,
garbage at this point.
well, at the state, I was just saying, the state level doesn't even have rules on that. So even at the state level, there's no rule requiring a utility to remove in-ground or above-ground facilities that are abandoned. I mean, I don't know how you do that. I mean, I agree with you 100% that, but it is. So one thing I was telling him, I said we could change the outlook of Eureka by putting a lot of those cables in the underground up that conduit, using basically underground, and get rid of all the poles.
But we don't have a map showing where all.
Right, there you go. That's where we're back to. So we're back to that. But no, one of the things, like I said, so we all agree that we need more data, and we can't do what it says we're supposed to do
So,
unless
you
we
know,
get more
I
data.
think we all agree that we need a map.
Well,
You know, I mean, it ties into so many other things.
Yeah.
You know, the vision plan, again, like I said, I've gone over this thing how many times, but it talks about, these different ways into town and in these landscaping areas, in these other parking areas that can help keep congestion out of downtown and all of that. And it still goes back to a map.
Right.
Do we have anything that we can currently use to facilitate and move forward the vision plan?
I think we have a specific agenda item for our next meeting.
Okay.
Is to hire a consultant to come in and coordinate building all the map.
I like the way you're thinking, because the message here for this workshop to the council and to the public is, you want to come into the modern era? I'm all there with you. Get your checkbook out.
Yes, right. Yeah.
That everything is solvable with money. And so if you want to talk, we need vision and growth and all this and accountability and all that. Agreed. Check. Right? Get your checkbook out.
Well,
So
yeah.
the planning commission and Cassie's office has very little money.
Well,
right? But it's such an essential part, according to, which I agree with, according to so many city council people, it's essential that we redo our vision plan and get in the modern era. Of course they're correct, but it's going to be financially painful if you want to move this to another step and stop this little piecemeal thing you got going on.
Well, see, I have a big beef with. I've looked at the last 4 city councils, and they keep on saying we need a vision plan, we need specifics, and then they ask us for a budgetary item. We presented one, then they knocked it back down. I feel like we're being a
Well, I have
ping
to tell you
pong
this,
ball. We are being,
I just don't think we did as good of a job as we should have.
Yeah.
And given, I would have not approved our $50,000 request based on just give me 50,000 and
yeah.
trust us, we're going to do a good job for the vision. I wouldn't approve that personally.
well,
right?
I agree with you on that, but the thing is, I feel like we're not given any direction from city council. We're just asked to produce this imaginary vision plan.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Well,
think
we
it
do
was-
have a vision plan.
Yeah, and I think really it was kind of a direction that we had never gone before. And so I think, I don't remember ever having any money at a planning as anybody. So
Well, that's
but it
a
was
really
first
good
attempt to
point,
get some
yeah.
money. So, but we learned. I think we learned something, and what we learned is that we're going to have to do a little delineation and get a little bit more detail. But it's
And we
gonna
need to
cost
get
some
in
money.
front of the people that will vote to fund us.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's something. Yeah.
So,
And-
we need to make sure that
You know, you can see, my main concern is infrastructure here in Eureka
Right,
Springs, because I
right.
think our water and sewer is
Yeah.
subpar. All we do is you do Band-Aid fixes every time something breaks.
Right.
We haven't got it through February, so we'll probably have a few more breaks this winter
Well,
when we start
part
getting
of
our
what
freeze.
is supposed to happen, and I do understand this is important to the city council and everybody else, that this long-term vision plan is about growth, and growth generates more revenue, right? This is the concept, right? And that concept is achievable, by the way. But what you have to remember is that unfortunately, you have yourself in this position right now. And so if you cannot get to that kind of growth that you need to be able to raise the money and get the credibility and sell more bonds to springboard the infrastructure to where it needs to be, unfortunately, without investing a lot more money.
Well, the thing is, we already have a long vision, a long-term vision plan.
Right.
We've had like 2 of them already.
Yeah.
The thing is, what I'm more concerned about, we need more of immediate vision plans, like 1 to 2 to 5 years out, instead of whatever this long-range vision plans, because that just gets buried in the archive. And,
You're reading my note card. Short-term goals now for the next 24 months.
We need them.
Now to 24 months, midterm 24 to 60 months, long-term 60 to 120 months. Exactly.
Right.
So what the council is looking for, and what we need to make clear is, here is the short-term things we need. I'm sorry it's not so esoteric and big picture for you right now, but you ain't there yet.
and we need
Okay?
the
Right.
map.
Yeah, we do not need to call in personally 14 ad hoc committees and a bunch of public meetings to do what we should have already been doing.
Yeah.
Okay? We need to execute some basic things right now, block and tackle up front, right? And then we'll get to the next level. And so then the question is, what are those new short-term steps? What are those things? And let's take the simple thing with the maps in the city property, right?
then
And
we'll build.
while your volunteer efforts are notable, I'm not so that's how we got into this situation, because let's just say you move on, we move on. No, somebody needs to be hired to take checks written to them personally.
Which is what the original
Not
conversation
you, not
was.
me. That's right.
that
Hired.
We change people constantly. Let's make sure that there's something there for everyone to see, so when you get on a commission, you know where you stand. You have that information available to you.
It's there.
Right.
Right. And the other thing about the city council is they get in a routine every year now. They're budgeting a little money for this. You know what I'm saying? So we're not going to cramp. Look, we could go through $250,000 like that.
Sure. Oh,
To
absolutely.
do this right? Sure. But that's not going to happen. So we have to deal with what we've got. So they seem to be open to 50. Let's take that first short term.
Yeah.
And what do we need to do? And with respect to the community-owned properties, and the other important element of what we've already been told to do, and that's to develop a community facilities plan, which includes all the community facilities, public schools, playgrounds, recreational areas, hospitals, facilities, culture, government buildings, areas, public, private, U-terminal, all the things. Because, by the way, when you're trying to get growth, residents like to see that.
Right.
Businesses want to see that.
Right.
And it becomes easy when you do that to start to manipulate other things like, where do we annex? Okay? Where are some, where are those water and sewer maps that make sense to be able to annex right there, get a little bit more, because we're just 500 feet away with sewer, right? Who's doing what? So that's how you get to that. It all starts to stand out when you have that community facilities plan. And so my thing is we need somebody to develop, to go through the mapping, not Cassie, working with Cassie, not one of us necessarily, who's hired, and they have a mandate within a period of time to document and catalog all the properties, put them on a map, bring in somebody who does the mapping services, right? And then the second step of that is integrate all the public facilities as an overlay to that map. And the third step would be to have someone work with Simon's office in making sure that map then has water and sewer overlay.
So the question is where do we find the expertise to do this map for us?
Well, it's a great question.
I mean, we have to put a request for proposal.
Doing the data research.
Yeah, there's
the company
urban
owns-
planners out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked to one. I mean, they're down in Rogers, they're in Fayetteville. I mean, there's plenty of them. It's just a matter of you have to identify exactly what you want them to do, and a map is a perfect thing. I've got one that's been asking me, is there any particular thing that you're interested in? So
But we have
they're
to put
there.
we have to put it in the constraints of our meetings because we
You have
can't
to vote
vote at a
on it.
workshop.
Right, you have
So,
to vote on it.
We can just, at this workshop, decide maybe on the agenda item for our upcoming meeting.
Well, I think
And-
we're probably in
Well-
agreement that we need to start phase one, which is we got to get this basics.
But then,
yeah.
so then we have to go out and find the person. And so that's going to
yeah.
put it into February,
Well,
possibly
it's not going
March.
to happen overnight. We
Yeah,
already
but
know
Well,
that.
I
the good
realize
news-
that.
The good news is let's break it down. For for city-owned properties, that's as simple as matter as hiring an abstractor, right? Who's basically pulling all that. They're doing the data scout reports. They're researching that. They're creating a file. Typical title company abstractor. And if there's any little nuances to the deal, hair on the dirt, they're doing the title research or whatever. They're creating a file, right, for every single city property, and then they are identifying that on a map. Easy, there might be 100 of them. I'm just going to make up a number. I don't know. Maybe they charge $100 a piece, right? They do 100, so it's 10 grand. I don't have a quote for that, but that wouldn't be an unreasonable amount. $100, $150 a piece. They document, and they have a file, digital and other and hard, for every single property owned by the city. Secondly, the good news is there are companies, because other cities are in this boat. That's what they do. They put together digital mapping. They're not in. They integrate with planners, but they're subcontractors to that. And so they can kind of take and see where we are. At least we could get a proposal on a real modern integrated system. And one of the things, the beast I have about our zoning map is, and Cassie inherited it, so is that it's not real clear on each zoning where exactly each street cuts off on the zone. Right? So it's kind of,
If you can read it.
blurry, yeah.
Yeah,
So that has to be cleaned up. And there are professional mapping services who will do that.
So-
That's not cheap, but it has to be done.
Well, now,
So can we request also from the utility companies like SWEPCO, and who's the other one with gas? Is
Black Hills Energy.
Black Hills Energy, because they have to, when they're laying down their gas pipes, they have to know where all the water pipes are and all the sewer. So they probably have a comprehensive map already.
Right. Now, that's a good thing, because they just did a comprehensive.
I mean, they have to have it.
downtown.
Fair enough. And Simon has a lot of maps too, right? But it's not fair nor right to go to Simon and say, hey, Matt, by the way, 30 days, provide us this detailed map. No, we would need to have someone that would be able to interface, because Simon's busy. His office is busy, to interface with them, pay them to download the information that he has in his mind on his maps, and then consolidate that into these series of overlays. And this is not some big new thing, by the way.
Well, Black Hills Energy
so
probably has
Simon-
that map already.
My judgment was Simon would be very happy to cooperate. Simon, we're not asking you to do anything, right? Because we know you're busy playing
he'll-
whack-a-mole.
He'll benefit from it.
Well, he'll benefit from it, yeah.
Exactly.
I think everybody. Matter of fact, that was
This
one
is
of the
my
things-
thought, right? And Simon may have another
Resource.
idea, right? But what we don't want to do is we don't want to put an additional burden on him or make it feel like, okay, yeah, now we're waiting on Public Works to do this. No, we need to be able to take the role and say, no, we're contracting with a young man or young woman to basically who's helping us do this because the city needs it. We all benefit.
Well, it gets back to our duties and responsibilities. We do have the responsibility, or I'm going to say, we can hire a consultant, but we.
That was my interpretation of Part J. That's exactly what it says in Part J. That's what I think.
But
But that may
it
be.
sounds like we have to run it through the mayor first before
Right.
we can.
But yeah.
Which we should do it as a courtesy anyway.
I could be wrong. I don't think that the mayor pushing back our $50,000 indicates that he doesn't want to support and give any money. I think it was just a loose request. He's basically saying, guys, you have to do better than this.
Well, I think we found a
True.
concrete
Very true.
request now.
Very true.
The what now?
We have found a concrete request, no pun intended,
Yeah.
concrete.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. One
know.
of the things that when I first got here in Eureka, which actually just, I don't know if the timing was, but in 2013, 2014, Black Hills Energy was going through and I didn't know what all the trucks were. And then I was standing out there at East Mountain in 62 and there was this huge gas piping that was above the ground. And it was a great spot for somebody to run their car into, but now it's all buried. And so all those, there's a word they use, all those are now buried. But they're buried because the city said, please do this while you're doing your inventory, because they were having to replace any piping that was over so many years old. So they were replacing all their gas lines. So that just happened less than 5 years ago. So that's going to be a great thing because they should have a lot of good data that is recent. Now, like I said, going back to the other companies like AT&T, no, I hope I don't get sued by AT&T, but anyway, but their records were so bad. Even the contractor said, I don't even know where this stuff is. I'm having to hire somebody with a metal detector to find it, you know? But that's the thing. And so, yeah, I think a guy who that's his job and he's done these things before, if we bring in a mapper or whatever, I don't know what they're called, mappers, I don't know. Anyway, a person that could facilitate bring this in and we could then identify and that this is our step one. You know, like I said, step one is to create a searchable per city location map that could be referenced quickly. You know, something on that aspect. That's really, I mean, that's what the city's
You
looking
just want to be able to pull it up on a map.
Right. And
That's
well, I
it.
know, but the city's
A
looking
digital
for-
map or a paper map or whatever
Yeah,
you're looking at,
yeah.
but you
And
want to be able to see
think,
it.
you know, we need to, probably what I was thinking about doing is going here to Pea Ridge and some of our local towns and asking them, you know, have you ever done this before? Who you've hired, how many hours did it take them to do a map for you? You know, those kind
I mean, you could just do that with whoever you call as a professional. They tell you.
But I know, but that's what I'm saying. So we can
Yeah.
gather that. So that's one thing, you know, I know Susan, you already reached out to one of them, but if we could get some details on how many work hours, because that's what they're going to, you know,
Well, they'll just give you a quote. It doesn't matter on the hours. They'll either do it by the job or they'll do it by the hour, but
Right.
but they'll give you a quote and tell
That's
you
what I'm saying.
exactly,
And-
you know, an
and-
approximate amount of what it would cost.
in that same description, we would delineate that the work is to be independently done and not to rely on any of the staff members. It has to be, you know,
Well, yeah, I mean, most of the information they could gather anyway without doing that.
I agree. I just want to make sure we don't load up the staff.
30 years ago, when Northwest Arkansas was, taking off, there were two firms there, engineering firms. There was Garver and Garver, which is now just called Garver, and McClellan Engineers. They did all the lot splits. They were the two firms, even before the growth occurred. They've been there forever. McClellan is the one that does our zoning map. Now, you can't read the streets on it because the print's so fine, but I mean, they have the data to do
Right.
the zoning thing. So they've been around, for forever in Northwest Arkansas. And looking in the last several months, almost every town in Northwest Arkansas has hired a Garver or McClellan to do them some kind of plan for their future growth. It's come to, Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Bentonville, all, so the firms are getting busy, but I would think we would take as Dave said, the data from the abstract company, give it to somebody like Garver or to McClellan and say, okay, here's what we got, here's
Yeah,
what we want.
Garver
And we've
is
got
one.
2 firms right in our backyard. Like I say, McClellan's already got something on us. I'm not sure how much the zoning map could be integrated into the data scout information, but it probably would be a help and get bid from each of those 2 companies.
Yeah, the lady from Garver said that they could do that project for us. It's just a matter of how much it will cost. I mean, that's what you really want to find out once you've detailed out what exactly you want.
Can we request at the next, is it appropriate to request at the next meeting that Simon be present for just a few minutes?
Sure. We could-
Ask him
we
some
could-
questions, because we don't need to be doing a lot of redundant work here, and Cassie may know some of the answers to that, but she probably know the answers of everything that Simon's doing all the time, right? So he may have he may be able to shorten the fuse here quite a
Very
bit.
true, very
right?
true.
Particularly with McClellan. We may have more there than we know. I don't know. There may be baseline data we have. I don't
Yeah,
think so, but maybe we do.
Yeah, matter of fact, one of the
So,
discussions when Simon first got here is we had a main water break off of Main Street there, and I drove down there, and he had the maps laid across the back of his truck, and I said, how old are those? Just, you don't want to know. And I said, okay. So they were trying to find, a third of the pipes underground are not mapped in Eureka Springs. And that's probably a guesstimate, but that's what, I got out of him. But so yeah, I think the result will be an improvement of data that will enhance the city's ability to bring in investors, to grow the city if we know that information.
Well, it's just a responsibility of the city. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not like David said, we're not creating something that nobody has ever done before.
Yeah.
This is just basic information that a typical city would have. And, reading through the vision plan, I don't want to blame anybody for it not being there at this point, because there have been, we've all been on a commission or been off a commission. There's been different people here before. If you read the vision plan at the end, it says looking forward. And it specifically says in there that there have been plans done and plans done and plans done. And we've made the joke about how these plans are done and then they just sit on a shelf and gather dust.
Right.
So it's not, that was done in 96. That was the sentiment in 96. And we're having the same sentiment in 2026.
Right.
So at some point, you just have to have individuals that are willing to go ahead and get it done and have it for the next generation.
Right. Cassie?
I am aware that your comment on the maps jogged my memory for a year. I am aware that Simon has been working to update the sewer and water maps. He has his own GIS that he works on. I have no idea where he's at in that process, but to that point, if he'd be willing to join us on Tuesday, I'm willing to ask him and see
That'd
if
be
he
awesome.
could
That'd be great.
come and just
That'd be
let us know what he knows. That way we don't,
That's
try
right.
to beat a dead horse.
Tells what he knows.
Anybody who's been involved in city planning and growth and development, know that this Public Works Department is essential
Oh,
and
absolutely.
integrated in the process of growth. So, yeah, Simon's a player in this.
Oh, absolutely.
In this process.
Absolutely.
And the fact that we call him there also may help send a message to him that, look, we
Yeah,
appreciate you, you're an integral part of this, and we need your input.
I have a question too on that line. What about parks? Because Parks has a
Sam.
master plan, right? So
Yeah.
have they have a working list of land that they already have on their schedule for development, correct? Be it
That's
map-
what
be
it was when I left.
Trails and
That
whatnot?
was about 5 years ago, but I'm pretty sure.
Can we call them both?
Yeah, I think we should.
I'll call Sam.
We can go
Just
Sam.
call them both and say, could you please just share a few minutes with here? I have some questions.
Right.
And because
That'd be great.
What we don't want to do is we don't want to make a request to city council on RFP to do something, and they look at us like, don't you know they already have that?
Right.
Yeah, you know,
right.
I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The reverse is true. Once we expose what we don't have, then the RFP,
Exactly.
Big question.
Exactly. And I think that's where the council was with us.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm hoping they have more than what we thought. And my guess is the Planning Commission hasn't asked for that in a while. So, yeah, that'd be great if you could do that.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
All right,
'Cause
what's-
here's why this becomes even more important, in my humble opinion, and that is we eventually the vision plan, the vision of the city, requires a lot more thematic decisions.
All right.
And 70% of our charge here has to do with maps and plans. Okay? And we are asked to be a part of that planning, but once we get to that thematic and cultural part of that, then the CAPC has to involve.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's a lot of factions that come out of everywhere, and it can get nasty.
Yeah, I agree.
But it makes it so much easier for us to execute our role. And it's not just here, it's everywhere, by the way. Okay?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
there is no way to avoid conflict at the end of your master plan, your vision plan.
That's right.
But for our role, at least we can cover the bases and we don't get lost. We've
There you go.
done our
Right.
homework, right? And that's a key.
So I have a clarification on that. You know, under the ordinance in 13.04.070,
Yeah.
it says any public space or land is supposed to come before us for review. I mean, you can go specifically, you know, item F. So why is parks plan outside of our jurisdiction?
Well, yeah, that's a whole layer. So one of the things that I was going to convey too is Parks is financially separate from the city of Eureka for a reason. Now I'm still talking out of school a little bit because I don't have all the details. But when I first got here and I met with then Morris Pate, and I asked Morris, you know, what do you need? And he said, well, I need this, and we started talking about how the city of Eureka started. So I was deeded by the federal government, but part of this deeding was that the parks and the springs be kept financially separate by literally the deed agreement with the federal government. So I'm not sure.
Well, I'm not talking about their finances. That's
No, I know, but that's part of
their
the
budget,
land.
their thing. But you know, anything that they plan on changing
Right.
with the land
Yeah, but we need to talk to them.
should come before us for review.
Are you talking about, like, I know, and I'm just going to bring this up, that Queen Anne land too, that they were talking about selling?
Yeah, it should come before us.
Right.
For review, according to the ordinance here.
Do
Well,
you
it would
think it
come
is?
before the planning if it was some type of change of use.
Right, if there was an
or
easement.
some non-conforming
Yeah,
use, or
right.
Well, it would be a change of use if they're building on it,
variance.
but if they're building on it, then it would still come before us
Right,
eventually
right.
anyway, right?
Right.
The construction permits.
Right, so,
Yeah.
Well, with respect to the parks, I've just now entered to my level of incompetence. I have no idea.
Yeah, so that's why
I would think,
we can ask,
though.
if we get Sam to come, we can ask him that exact
Yeah,
thing, because
yeah.
that's my understanding when I was a park commissioner, and that's why they have their own tax that they use to pay
Yeah.
for all their salaries and all their work they want to do, plus they actually have the ability to assess a fee on material because they're literally it's almost like Eureka Springs 2.0. It's almost like a separate government, but it's not. They still have to answer to the city. It's still under the, but it's kind of a,
well, it's similar to the CAPC
kind of
Yeah.
like CAPC, but in this
and the
case,
hospital too, for
Yeah.
that matter.
yeah. So it's kind of weird because it was actually listed in the deeds of all the, so if you have a property and they discover a spring under your house, you lose your house. I mean, that's it.
Well, you
So-
probably would anyway.
Well, I know. Yeah, you probably lose it anyway. But that was one of the things that are part of the thing. And I was like, wow, that's pretty wild. I hope I don't ever. But yeah. So
Yeah.
there's some weirdness in Eureka, which is 100 years
so
old.
just a question of, clarification for me. So they just put went through, and they're getting some new bathhouses out of Lake Leatherwood.
Right.
That doesn't come under
No.
our review?
Nope. Only the code. So the only thing that would come under is code enforcement as far as making sure everything complied with the standards in the state. That would be Paul. But as far as anything they want to do on their property, especially those historic buildings, they had to get historic. I guess they had to get an historic thing too.
They did talk to the Arkansas Historic Preservation Program on if building those bathhouses would impact the National Register status, and it did not, so that's what
Right,
they
and that's
were-
about it. So it's like like I said, it's a separate kind of line in the sand, so to speak. And that's why I mentioned they control 41% of all the land in Eureka. So they're an important part of the discussion, but we have to keep in mind that that's their thing. You know, it's kind of like there's a,
I think we just want to include them in the conversation so that we've got a comprehensive
yeah.
map. And, you know, I mean, if they've got information that we can use.
And I think
That's
they do
the-
because
that's
the
the whole
in-town
point.
trail work they were doing for the in-town trails, that went through a lot of work. I mean, there was a lot of, getting who owns what.
Right.
And then getting permissions and all that stuff. So I know that they have some information.
Yeah, as of right now, I'm just going to say that we don't have this map. And if we can get bits and pieces and put something together, then at least that's more information
That's
we
more
can
than we
provide
got
a
now.
contractor.
So those
And just go from there.
in-town trails, were those on park land?
Yeah, that's the
Or
thing.
is that
So-
public land?
Well, it's kind of like, so you mentioned that piece of property they want to sell. Well, part of the agreement was going to be that company that was buying it would turn some of it into Parks Trail. Well, that's why Parks had to get involved, because they've got to delineate that exact route, because that's going to be deeded to them. And not to, and so it's a different animal when you want to do a Parks Trail.
I think it sounds like we know what we want to do, but I do have a question for Cassie, because in one of your emails that you sent over when you indicated or addressed the GIS map, you said something in there about, what was it? Darn, I wish I had the email in front of me. There's something about the mapping. Oh, just give me a minute, I'll pull it up.
So a question here, so what's the definition of city-owned?
City-owned land, yes.
And parkland?
Well, that's a good question.
Does the city own the parkland too, or is park
Well, that's
considered
what
a
I'm-
separate entity?
It's just what I'm saying. There's a hurdle to pass through that when you do try to. So one of the things I think that came up was with the tree ordinance. So they can cut trees on parks land without having to get permission. So that was one of the things. I think Tom, you brought that up. And
Yeah, we don't want to.
yeah, we didn't want to mess. It was kind of like a layer of complication that we didn't want to go down. But it's not that, like I said, there's a hurdle to go, and I think, and sometimes there's times where the city gives parks land.
Yeah, so give me an example of what is a city-owned public land
Okay,
that's
so-
not park.
What Cassie, the question I had was that Cassie in her email said, to my knowledge, the data for vacant properties has not been gathered, and what constitutes a vacant property has not been defined by the city either. So this would be that
Yeah.
process, and maybe clarify what you're asking.
Sure. Well, like Basin Park.
Yeah, well-
that's a parks property. It's not a city property. It's a
Right, I know,
parks
but
property.
like if there's city-owned vacant land,
Yeah,
and
but it could.
and
That's what I'm
it's-
saying. It could, as long as it's not delineated as a parks or a spring there. If there's a
Yeah.
spring there, then it's automatically parks land.
Could you give me an example of one?
Well, like up there, Flint Street, that park that's up there, just as you make that turn onto, is it Council? I can't. Anyways, you go up, you go up.
Wash Screen, it's,
Yeah, and there's a park, there's the spring right there.
Yeah.
So that little caveat is cut out, and that's all controlled by parks.
right.
You can't cut it. You can't. So they
But
have to
give me an
mow it.
example of city-owned public land.
Well, it'd be Public Works.
Yeah, public, right.
Public Works, auditorium is city-owned, this building is city-owned.
Okay, but do we have any vacant land here that's,
That's what
Well,
we
that's
don't
what we're trying to
know.
figure
That's what we're
out.
trying to find out,
Okay.
yeah. That's the reason why we need the maps, to help us
Right.
identify areas where we could put a park, or we could put a benches, we
Or a
could
parking lot, or
parking lot or
whatever,
something.
or build a new city hall.
So on that note too, you mentioned the city attorney. We're going to be facing other legal questions. I just want to make sure that, put on the record that I believe this planning commission should have the regular and free access to the city attorney.
Oh, we do. I
Yeah,
think,
as
matter
we-
of fact.
as we go
if you
through
to
some of
the-
these things.
If you go to the city website and you click on the contact, and if you click on that city attorney, that's how I sent her a note about section J. So you can send her a direct email for her to review what are your questions, is this okay to do this, or is this how you read this?
So you,
Well,
you
it's-
you just want her to clarify what
Is
you're
that the right
reading?
protocol though?
Well, that's a, what do you believe, Cassie? I mean, is that,
Go through Cassie
that's what
with
I did, I mean.
I don't.
I've always been,
answer
I
this.
mean, it was always requested by the mayor, since I've been here, that we, when it comes to the city attorney, that we would present the information to him, and he would at least it was when I went through like municipal league.
Okay. Well, that's what
So-
I mean. I
is
just,
that,
So maybe just clarify that.
yeah, is that an informal request or something on?
I mean, I think it's just,
I mean, we can
first,
always
you know,
throw out the word courtesy.
maybe it's just courtesy, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
First of all, I mean, it seemed to me that the body collectively has questions about legal, and those should be communicated by the chairman. And then the chairman, this is my thought, would send the mayor that legal question, copy us and the attorney.
sure, I could do that.
right, and anything
But
that,
we don't just willy-nilly.
right.
That's kind of what I did with that. like-
But it's not something we can vote on here.
No, I don't.
No, I mean, if we're going to do that procedure, we need to formalize it.
Do you want a
at
clarification
meeting.
on it then? Maybe you can ask at the next meeting, just for formal clarification on what the procedure is?
Sure, we could do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we,
And I think at the next meeting was just, general, we have officers, is it a full election of officers or just,
Yeah.
okay, so if anyone's thinking about that, please think about those positions.
I have a question.
And we're going to bring up a secretary because we talked about minutes. Do you think we ought to do that?
Yes, whoever the secretary is will need to start taking the minutes for the meetings.
You hear that, Tom?
I'm not on city planning anymore anyway. My term ran out. You guys are first.
He's a guest of the chair. He's a guest of the chair today.
I have a question, is, since Fergie's here, and he's the chair, and we can't vote,
Right.
I would like to ask if you can add the mapping per our vision plan, or per our,
Well, yeah, there's an item on the meeting.
For vision plan,
vision
Stan?
plan already.
okay, can you add on there also the clarification to find out what the process is to get legal information?
Yeah, Cassie, could you add that onto the, yeah, okay.
Just so we have that
Sure,
for the meeting?
sure,
Okay.
sure.
And subject to the response from the Public Works Director, which I don't think will impact this topic, and the Parks Commissioner, then during that upcoming meeting, I'm going to propose that we get a bid pronto from an abstractor. This is not a sophisticated
sure.
map technician.
Well, we can
From an
do that, yeah.
abstractor to create a file for all publicly owned property.
Since you do real estate, do you know of any in town?
Yeah.
How many do we have?
There's only really
Two
one.
abstractors in town.
Well, there's one that you want to use.
So
Okay.
are we also asking for Sam to come?
Parks
With the
and,
parks, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Sam Dudley, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's why I said, subject to their input.
Yeah.
Then we may do that.
So are we good, guys? Are we
think
ready?
we're good.
to close? Okay. I guess, we need a motion to close the workshop. Okay, probably.
I'll make a
So we-
motion to close the workshop.
Okay, and so we're going to close this workshop, and the next planning meeting is going to be the 13th, no, next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
What is that? My brain, yeah.
I think it's the 13th.
13th, okay.
Yeah.
So January 13th at here in the auditorium. So I hope I'll see you all there. So thank you very much.